Have you ever noticed how, after a certain age, the phone rings less often, the invitations slow down, and even family gatherings feel a little quieter? Maybe you felt your world shrink just a bit, like you're slowly becoming invisible. You might tell yourself, that's just what happens when you get older. But what if that isn't the whole truth? What if being left behind isn't just a part of aging, but something we can change? Many of us don't realize that simple, everyday moments, like reaching out, sharing a story, or learning something new, can make all the difference. In this video, we'll uncover the hidden reasons why people sometimes drift away after 60, and more importantly, explore gentle, practical ways to reconnect. By the end, you'll discover that a meaningful, connected life is always within reach, no matter your age. Let's find that hope together. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. Reason 1. Loss of emotional and communication connection. There's a quiet moment, maybe late in the afternoon, when you realize the house feels emptier than it used to. The TV is on, but it's only filling the silence, not keeping you company. You think back to the days when your phone rang with calls from friends, or when your children popped in for a visit just because. Maybe now, the conversations with loved ones are briefer, more practical, and less heartfelt. Sometimes little more than a quick, "How are you?" or a text with a smiling emoji. You might chalk it up to, that's just how life goes after a certain age. But is it? Let's pause for a moment and consider. What if the distance we feel isn't inevitable? What if it's not about getting older, but about something much simpler, something we can change? The truth is, many older adults across America, in towns both big and small, experience this quiet drifting apart. It often happens so slowly, it's hard to notice at first. Days blend, and before you know it, you find yourself missing the warmth of a real, meaningful connection. Yet, most people believe it's just the way things are. But what if we look closer? Why does this emotional and communication gap widen after 60? There's a very human reason behind it. As we grow older, changes happen not just in our bodies but in our minds and hearts, too. Retirement might mean we see fewer coworkers every day. Children and grandchildren grow up, start families of their own, and get swept up in their busy lives. Technology changes fast, and sometimes keeping up with all the new ways people communicate, text messages, video calls, even emojis, can feel overwhelming. There's a sense of not wanting to bother our kids, or a fear that our stories aren't interesting anymore. Maybe you feel like your memories don't quite fit in their world of TikTok and group chats. Science tells us that human connection is just as important in our later years as it is when we're young. Research from the National Institute on Aging shows that people over 65 who maintain strong social bonds are healthier, happier, and even live longer. Yet, when communication breaks down, we risk becoming isolated, not just physically, but emotionally. And it's not about the number of people around us, but the quality of those connections. A heartfelt conversation over a cup of coffee means much more than a dozen likes on a Facebook post. So, what can you do if you sense this loss of connection? The solution isn't as difficult as you might think. It starts with the smallest of gestures. Try reaching out. Yes, even if you haven't spoken in a while. Pick up the phone and call a friend, or send a letter to an old neighbor. Next time your family visits, instead of only asking about their jobs or school, share a story from your past. You might be surprised by how curious grandchildren can be about what life was like back then. Invite them to teach you something new. Maybe how to use a video call app, or how to take photos on your phone. When you show interest in their world, they often feel honored to share it with you. Don't be afraid to talk about your feelings, too. If you're lonely or missing someone, say it out loud. Let your loved ones know you'd love to hear from them more often. Sometimes, people assume you're doing just fine because you don't say otherwise. By opening up, you make it easier for others to open up to you. Let me share the story of Mr. Harris, a retired school principal from Ohio. After his wife passed away and his children moved out of state, he found his world getting smaller. The phone stopped ringing, and the mail was mostly bills or advertisements. For a while, he convinced himself that this was just what getting older meant. But one afternoon, remembering the way he used to greet new students with a warm smile and a question, he decided to try the same approach with his own family. He called his daughter, not to ask for anything, but simply to ask about her day and share a story about her childhood. That call sparked laughter and a wave of fond memories. His granddaughter even suggested they have regular video calls, so she could teach him how to play online chess. It didn't solve everything overnight, but it opened a door that had quietly closed. The lesson is simple, but powerful. Connection doesn't fade because of age, it fades when we stop nurturing it. You still have the power to bring warmth, laughter, and love back into your everyday life. The next time you feel that familiar loneliness, remember that reaching out, even just a little, can make all the difference. You are still an important part of your family and your community. Don't be afraid to take the first step. Your story matters, your voice matters, and the world is always brighter with your presence in it. Let's make today the day you reach out, even if it's just a hello. Sometimes, the smallest connection is the beginning of something wonderful. Reason 2. Negative mindset or being judgmental. Have you ever caught yourself sighing at the news or shaking your head at the way young people do things nowadays? Maybe it slips out as a joke. Back in my day, we knew how to work hard. Or kids these days are always glued to their phones. At first, these words seem harmless, just little observations or ways to fill a quiet moment. But over time, they can become a habit, almost like a filter through which we see the world. It happens to so many of us after 60, and it often goes unnoticed. We believe we're just sharing our experiences or protecting those we love from repeating our mistakes. But have you ever wondered if these comments, even made with love, might push people away? Let's challenge the idea that this is simply normal with age, or that it's always helpful. What if, instead, a negative mindset, or being too quick to judge, builds an invisible wall between us and the people we care about? What if it makes our loved ones less likely to reach out, visit, or confide in us? This isn't about being too sensitive, but about recognizing how our words and attitudes can quietly shape the relationships that matter most. The truth is, science tells us that as we get older, we sometimes become more set in our ways. Neurologists explain that our brains naturally carve out mental shortcuts over time, making it easier to stick to old patterns and beliefs. If we're not careful, the wisdom that comes with age can slowly turn into stubbornness or a focus on the negative. Instead of sharing stories that inspire, we may find ourselves retelling only the hardships. How much things have changed for the worse, how expensive everything is, how respect isn't what it used to be. But here's the catch. Younger generations, our children, grandchildren, and even old friends, might hear these words as criticism. They may start to avoid certain topics or even cut visits short, just to dodge a lecture or a complaint. Over the years, these small interactions can add up, creating distance where there should be warmth and closeness. So what's the gentle, practical solution? It doesn't mean you have to pretend everything is perfect or hold back your true feelings. Instead, it means making a conscious choice to focus on the positive whenever possible. Start by noticing the things you genuinely appreciate. Maybe your grandson's sense of humor, your neighbor's kindness, or even your daughter's creative way of doing things. When you feel tempted to correct or criticize, try offering a compliment or sharing a fond memory instead. If you find yourself about to say, "You should," or "Why don't you ever?" pause and ask a question instead. For example, "Tell me more about what you enjoy these days," or "What was the best part of your week?" It can also help to remind yourself that every generation faces its challenges, and many of the things that look strange or wrong to us now were met with the same skepticism when we were young. Think back to the music you loved or the fashions you wore. Didn't your parents raise an eyebrow, too? Let me tell you about Mrs. Walker, an 81-year-old grandmother from Missouri. For years, she found herself grumbling every time her grandchildren visited, especially when they'd pull out their phones at the dinner table. "Nobody talks anymore," she would say, sometimes right in front of them. It hurt her to feel ignored, but it also hurt her grandchildren to feel judged. One day, her oldest granddaughter Emma gently told her, "Grandma, we want to spend time with you, but sometimes we feel like nothing we do is ever right." Those words struck a chord. Mrs. Walker thought long and hard about it that night. The next week, instead of starting with complaints, she asked Emma to show her what was so interesting on her phone. They spent an hour laughing over funny videos, sharing family photos, and swapping stories. That small shift turned family dinners from a battleground into a place of joy again. Mrs. Walker discovered that being curious, rather than critical, brought her closer to her grandchildren, and made her feel young at heart. The real secret is that kindness and curiosity open doors. A positive attitude invites people in. Judgment, even well-intentioned, shuts them out. So the next time you feel the urge to comment on kids these days, try to find something to celebrate instead. Offer a listening ear, a gentle question, or a word of encouragement. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Remember, your wisdom is a gift, and your approval means the world to those you love. When you choose to focus on what's good and share it, you become a source of comfort and inspiration. It's never too late to build bridges and become the reason your family and friends can't wait to spend time with you. A warm smile and an open heart truly have the power to change everything, at any age. Reason 3. Difficulty adapting to change, technology, lifestyle. You sit down at the kitchen table, a mug of coffee warming your hands, and glance at your smartphone resting on the counter. You remember a time when a simple phone call was all it took to catch up with loved ones. Now, it seems like everything happens through screens, apps, or some new gadget that promises to make life easier. But does it? For many people after 60, the world can feel like it's spinning just a little too fast. One day, you're writing birthday cards by hand. The next, your granddaughter sends her thanks by text, complete with a row of dancing emojis. Family updates arrive through group chats. Invitations to gatherings come as digital calendar requests. And sometimes, it all feels overwhelming. You might think, maybe this is just how it is when you get older. The world moves on. But what if there's another way to see it? What if being able or unable to adapt isn't really about age, but about mindset, curiosity, and finding joy in the new? Imagine, just for a moment, that these rapid changes aren't meant to leave you behind, but are invitations to join in on your terms. Let's dig a little deeper. Why is it often so hard to keep up with all these changes, especially when it comes to technology and modern lifestyles? Part of it is simple. The world has changed quickly. 20 years ago, most people didn't carry the internet in their pockets. Grandchildren grew up with tablets in their hands. Social media, streaming TV, online banking, health apps, it all appeared almost overnight. For someone who remembers rotary phones and milk deliveries, it's only natural that learning to use a new device or app can feel intimidating, even unnecessary. There's often a silent fear of messing something up, of looking foolish, or being a burden by asking for help too many times. Science gives us some reassurance here. The brain is wired to favor routine and comfort, especially as we age. But it also tells us that learning new things, no matter our age, keeps our minds sharp and even wards off memory loss. Researchers at Harvard and the Mayo Clinic have found that seniors who actively try new activities, like using technology, have better brain health and emotional well-being. But that doesn't mean you need to master every app or trend. It means taking one small step at your own pace can make all the difference. So what's a gentle, practical way to start adapting to change, especially when it comes to technology and modern habits? Begin by choosing one thing you're genuinely interested in, something that could enrich your life or help you stay close to family and friends. Maybe you'd like to learn how to make a video call so you can see your grandchildren's faces, even if they live across the country. Or perhaps you'd enjoy joining an online book club or reconnecting with old friends through Facebook. Ask a family member, maybe a child or grandchild, to show you, step by step, how to do just that one thing. Let them know you want to learn, not because you have to, but because you want to stay connected and engaged. If you make a mistake, remember, it's not a failure, but part of the process. Most young people have deleted the wrong thing, sent a text to the wrong person, or clicked the wrong link at least once. Laughing about it together can even turn into a cherished memory. You might find that, in the process, you not only learn a new skill but also grow closer to the person teaching you. Let's meet Mr. Johnson, a retired firefighter from Florida. For years, he resisted using anything more complicated than his old flip phone. When his daughter moved to California with her 2 sons, he worried about missing out on their lives. After a bit of nudging, his grandson offered to set up FaceTime on his smartphone. The first call was a comedy of errors. He held the phone upside down, his ear filled half the screen, and he accidentally turned on a filter that made him look like a cartoon cat. But instead of getting frustrated, he and his grandsons burst out laughing. Soon, these weekly video calls became the highlight of his week. He even learned to send photos of his garden, read bedtime stories over the phone, and play online chess with the boys. The technology that once seemed so cold and confusing became a bridge to deeper love. The real secret is, you don't have to change everything at once or become a tech expert overnight. The world may be moving fast, but you have the power to choose which parts of it you invite into your life. Pick the changes that matter to you. Ask for help when you need it, and celebrate each small victory. Remember, adapting to change isn't about keeping up with everyone else. It's about keeping yourself open to new experiences, laughter, and connection. Your story is still unfolding, and every chapter can be richer when you embrace just a little bit of the new. Permit yourself to try, to stumble, and to grow. You might just discover that the best moments are yet to come, and the world is eager to share them with you. Reason 4. Poor health and lack of initiative. There's a certain heaviness that settles in when your body doesn't cooperate the way it used to. Maybe you wake up in the morning, and the aches take a little longer to fade. Perhaps you move more slowly, and simple tasks, watering the garden, climbing stairs, or even standing to cook a meal, feel like a workout. For many people after 60, these changes seem like an unavoidable part of aging. Gradually, you might start skipping morning walks, saying no to invitations, or deciding it's just easier to stay home. At first, these choices feel small, but over time, they can quietly add up, narrowing your world and making you feel isolated, even from those who love you most. But is it just about getting older? Or is there more to the story? What if the true reason people drift away after 60 isn't just the state of our bodies, but the way health struggles can sap our motivation and initiative? The truth is, poor health doesn't just impact what you can physically do. It affects how you feel about yourself, your willingness to try new things, and your openness to connection. Sometimes, it's not even a specific illness, but the slow buildup of fatigue, stiffness, or worry that leads us to pull back from life. Let's take a closer look. Science tells us that movement and social engagement are deeply linked to physical and emotional well-being. When pain or health worries take center stage, it's natural to retreat and focus on what hurts. This withdrawal can create a vicious cycle. Less movement leads to more weakness leads to less confidence, and suddenly, it's not just your muscles that feel stiff, it's your spirit, too. Family and friends may mean well, but if they see you saying no more often, they might stop inviting you, thinking they're sparing you discomfort. Before long, Everyone falls into a silent agreement that you're better off left alone, when what you need is just the opposite. So, what can you do if you find yourself in this situation? The good news is, the solution doesn't have to be dramatic or exhausting. Sometimes, the most powerful changes come from the gentlest of steps. Start with one small thing that makes you feel a little more alive each day. If walking around the block feels like too much, try just stepping outside to feel the sun on your face. Stretch while you watch TV. March in place at the kitchen counter. Call a friend and agree to walk together. Maybe only halfway down the street and back. These are not just physical activities. They're acts of self-kindness and hope. Another gentle approach is to involve loved ones in your wellness. Invite your granddaughter to try a new healthy recipe with you, or ask a neighbor to join you at a local park. If you can't go out, bring the world in. Watch a travel show, listen to music that makes you want to tap your toes, or join an online group for seniors with similar health concerns. The simple act of reaching out, even just to say hello, can break the cycle of isolation and give you a fresh burst of energy. Let me share the story of Mrs. Coleman, a retired nurse in Oregon. After her hip surgery, she felt certain her active days were over. She spent more and more time indoors, reading or watching TV, feeling like life was passing her by. Her daughter noticed the change and, instead of urging her to get out and about, started bringing her fresh flowers from the farmer's market every week. They would arrange the bouquets together at the kitchen table, chatting about the different blooms. This simple, shared ritual sparked something in Mrs. Coleman. She began looking forward to their time together, and soon, she suggested going to the market herself, just to pick out her favorites. That weekly outing became the highlight of her week, and her confidence grew along with her energy. Before long, she was back to leading her church's flower committee, feeling vibrant and connected once again. The lesson is this: poor health doesn't define you, and it doesn't have to dictate the size of your world. You have the power to break the cycle, even if it's just with a single, hopeful action each day. Invite life back in, little by little, and don't be afraid to let others walk beside you on the journey. Remember, every step, no matter how small, is a victory. The people who care about you want to see you thrive, not just survive. Give yourself permission to try, to rest, and to try again. Your presence is a gift, and your initiative can inspire not only your own heart, but the hearts of everyone around you. The next chapter is waiting, and you have the pen in your hand. Reason 5. Self-isolation from guilt or low self-worth. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. There are moments, sometimes late at night or on a slow afternoon, when loneliness feels like it seeps into the room. You might sit quietly with a cup of tea, looking through old photos or remembering voices and laughter that once filled the house. Somewhere along the way, you find yourself pulling back from friends and family. Not because you don't care, but because something inside whispers that you shouldn't ask for too much, or that your problems are yours alone to solve. Maybe you worry you'll be a burden if you call your son too often, or you hold back from joining a social event because you feel you won't fit in anymore. For many people after 60, this sense of isolation sneaks up gradually, dressed in guilt or feelings of not being needed. But what if things could be different? What if this habit of pulling away isn't just a natural part of aging, but something you can gently change? It's easy to assume that others are too busy for us, or that we're no longer as important as we once were. But sometimes, the truth is more complicated. As we get older, life shifts. Roles within the family change. Maybe you once cared for children, a partner, or aging parents, and suddenly, you feel adrift without someone to look after. Or maybe you regret things you said or didn't say, and guilt keeps you from reaching out. The world grows smaller, not because people have left, but because we quietly close the doors ourselves. Science shows us that feelings of low self-worth and guilt can have real effects on both our physical and emotional health. Researchers at the University of California found that seniors who experience self-isolation, especially when fueled by guilt, are at greater risk of depression, cognitive decline, and even chronic illness. The mind and body are more connected than we often realize. The more we tell ourselves we're a burden, the more likely we are to stay quiet, withdraw, and miss out on joyful moments. So, what's the way forward? The answer starts with kindness toward yourself. It's important to recognize that everyone, at any age, deserves connection, love, and support. You are not a burden for needing companionship or for asking for help. One gentle step is to practice self-compassion. When you catch yourself feeling guilty for wanting attention or help, pause and remind yourself that you have given so much to others throughout your life. It's not only okay to receive care and kindness in return, it's your right. Reach out in small ways. You don't have to make grand gestures or lengthy phone calls. Sometimes, a simple text to a neighbor, a short voicemail to a family member, or a cheerful greeting to someone at the store is enough to break the spell of isolation. If you feel nervous about reaching out, try writing a letter or email first. Share a story, a memory, or just a friendly thinking of you. Most often, people are grateful to hear from you. They may not even realize how much you've been missing their company. Let me tell you about Mr. Green, a retired mechanic from Illinois. After his wife passed, he felt himself slipping into the background of his own life. He didn't want to burden his children, who had families of their own, and he was ashamed to admit just how lonely he was. For months, he let calls go to voicemail, skipped church gatherings, and sat alone with his worries. One day, his granddaughter sent him a postcard from college with a simple message, "I miss you, Grandpa. Call me if you want to talk. I love hearing your stories." That note was the spark he needed. He picked up the phone and called her. The conversation was short, but it lit up his whole week. Bit by bit, he began reaching out more, inviting an old friend for coffee, showing up at Sunday service, waving to neighbors during his walks. Each small connection grew his sense of worth, one day at a time. The truth is, the people who care about you would much rather hear from you than wonder if you're okay. You are not taking up space, you are making it brighter. Even if you've spent months or years feeling isolated, it's never too late to take that first step toward connection. So if today feels heavy or you find yourself shrinking back out of guilt or doubt, remember, you are worthy of kindness and community, just as you are. Try reaching out, even in the smallest of ways. You might be surprised at how warmly the world welcomes you back. Your presence still matters. Your laughter, your memories, your gentle wisdom are gifts to those around you. Give yourself permission to step forward. The doors you open, one small act at a time, can bring light not just to your own life, but to everyone lucky enough to know you. Reason 6. Stubbornness and not listening to others. It's a familiar scene in many families, a conversation that starts out pleasant enough, but slowly turns tense. Perhaps your daughter is trying to show you a new way to manage your medications, or your grandson is enthusiastically sharing a new recipe he found online. Instead of feeling curious or open, you might feel a wave of resistance rise inside. I've been taking care of myself for decades. Why do I need advice now? Or, that's not how we did things in my day. It's a feeling that's easy to recognize, but hard to admit. For many people over 60, a touch of stubbornness creeps in, often without us noticing. It's not because we don't care, but because change can feel like a challenge to our experience. And listening to new ideas can feel like letting go of what's worked for a lifetime. But what if this stubbornness, this unwillingness to listen, is quietly driving people away, even when we don't mean it to? What if, by holding too tightly to the old ways, we close the door to meaningful moments with the people we love? Let's dig a little deeper. Stubbornness in later life is not unusual, and science offers some clues as to why it happens. As we age, our brains are wired for comfort and familiarity. We've built up decades of habits and memories that help us feel safe in a world that's always changing. Our routines become anchors, especially when other things, health, family, technology, feel unpredictable. There's a comfort in knowing what works. But that comfort can come at a cost. When we reject new ideas out of hand, we may send an unspoken message, "My way is the only way that matters." To children, grandchildren, or friends, this can feel dismissive or even hurtful, no matter how much we love them. The effect is subtle but real. Over time, loved ones may stop offering help, sharing new experiences, or seeking advice. They might visit less, fearing another disagreement or that their opinions don't count. This creates a quiet divide, one that neither side truly wants. So, how do we gently open the door to more listening, less resisting? It doesn't mean you have to give up your values or ignore your life's wisdom. Instead, it's about inviting curiosity back into your relationships. The next time someone offers a new suggestion, pause for a moment. Take a breath and ask yourself, what can I learn here, even if I don't agree? You might say, tell me more about why you do it that way, or, I've never tried that before, how does it work? These small questions can transform a conversation from a tug-of-war into a dance of shared discovery. If trying something new feels daunting, remember that listening doesn't mean you have to agree or change overnight. It simply means showing respect for another person's perspective. Often, just being heard is all your loved ones really need. And sometimes, you might find that their way works just as well, or even better, than your own. Let's think about Mr. Thompson, a retired postal worker from Minnesota. He prided himself on his perfectly organized home and never missed a bill payment in 40 years. When his son suggested using online banking to pay bills more easily, Mr. Thompson bristled. "I don't trust those computers," he said, "and I don't need anyone telling me how to handle my money." The subject became a source of tension, and soon, his son stopped bringing it up. One winter, a bad snowstorm delayed the mail for days, and a late fee appeared on Mr. Thompson's bill. Embarrassed but determined, he called his son, asking him to walk through the online system, just once. They sat at the kitchen table, side by side, his son guiding him step by step. Not only did Mr. Thompson discover how simple it was, but he also saw the pride in his son's face. The lesson wasn't about banking, but about learning together, about showing trust, even when it felt uncomfortable. The truth is, being open to new ideas doesn't take away from all you've accomplished. It shows those around you that their thoughts and contributions matter. When you listen, you make others feel valued. When you show flexibility, you become a partner in life's ongoing adventure, not just a bystander. So, if you notice stubbornness cropping up, try softening it with a question, a smile, or a willingness to try. The world is changing, yes, but there's still so much you can teach and so much you can learn. Every generation brings something valuable to the table. Remember, your legacy is not only in the wisdom you pass down, but in your ability to grow, adapt, and listen. By opening your heart and ears, you invite the people you love to stay close and journey with you, hand in hand, through every new chapter. Reason 7. Neglecting self-care and personal joy. Sometimes, life becomes so much about caring for others, children, grandchildren, a partner, or even friends, that it's easy to forget yourself in the process. Maybe, after retirement or the loss of a loved one, your days grow quieter, and routines fill up with chores, TV, or simply passing the time. You might look in the mirror and see someone who used to love dressing up, gardening, singing, or walking in the sun, but now feels invisible, like the sparkle has faded. For so many people after 60, putting personal joy and self-care last becomes almost a habit, a quiet surrender to the idea that happiness is for other people, or for younger years. But what if that's not true? What if, even now, you deserve to treat yourself with the same tenderness and attention you've shown everyone else all your life? In fact, neglecting your own needs doesn't just dim your spirit, it can slowly push family and friends away. When your days are colored only by obligation or routine, you may stop sharing the stories, laughter, and energy that drew people close in the first place. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Let's look at why this happens. As we age, the world sometimes tells us to take it easy, to step back, or even to become invisible. We start believing that joy, adventure, or new beginnings belong to younger generations. Old hobbies are put aside, favorite clothes gather dust, and dreams are stored away for later, even when later never comes. Sometimes, poor health or the loss of mobility makes it harder to do what you once loved. Or perhaps, after a lifetime of looking after everyone else, it simply feels strange to put yourself first. Yet, science and experience both say, self-care and joy are more important than ever as we get older. Studies from the National Institute on Aging show that seniors who nurture their interests, keep up their appearance, and find moments of pleasure in everyday life are healthier, less lonely, and even live longer. When you take time for yourself, you don't just feel better. You radiate positivity, making you more fun to be around and easier for family and friends to connect with. So how do you start, especially if self-care feels selfish or awkward after so many years of giving? The answer is to begin gently. Think of something small that used to bring you joy, a walk in the park, a favorite song, a special meal, or even just wearing a bright color. Treat yourself to these pleasures, not as a luxury, but as a daily medicine for your soul. If you loved painting, gardening, or baking, set aside a little time each week for that hobby. If mobility is a challenge, invite someone to join you, or find a group, online or in person, that shares your interests. Sometimes, self-care is as simple as letting yourself rest when you're tired or saying no when you need a break. Let me tell you about Ms. Eleanor, a retired librarian from Pennsylvania. For years after her husband passed, she wore only gray and beige, ate simple meals, and rarely left the house except for groceries. Her daughter noticed the change and gave her a bright red scarf for her birthday. "You always looked beautiful in red," she said. At first, Eleanor resisted, thinking, that's for younger women. But one chilly morning, she wrapped the scarf around her neck and went to the park. People smiled and complimented her. She felt noticed and alive for the first time in ages. Encouraged, she joined a local book club, started baking again, and even helped organize neighborhood potlucks. Eleanor's joy became infectious. Her family visited more often, neighbors dropped by with news, and her days were filled with new friendships and laughter. The truth is, by taking care of yourself, you become a beacon, not just for your own happiness, but for everyone around you. Your energy, smile, and enthusiasm are gifts that draw people close. It's not selfish to invest in yourself. It's an act of love that benefits your whole community. So if today feels dull, or if you've been neglecting what makes you feel good, pause and ask yourself, what small thing could I do for myself today? Remember, joy has no expiration date. It's never too late to reclaim your sparkle or to find new sources of happiness, no matter your age or circumstance. Give yourself permission to live fully, to laugh, to dance, to dress up, to pursue new passions, or to revisit old dreams. The people who love you want to see you thriving, not just surviving. You are still the heart of your family and your circle of friends. The best way to keep those bonds strong is to let your own light shine. Your happiness is not a luxury, it's a necessity, for you and for everyone who cares about you. The world needs your joy. So go ahead, nurture yourself a little today. You deserve it, and the people you love will thank you for it, in ways both big and small. As we reach the end of our journey through the 7 reasons people may drift away after 60, it's important to remember one simple truth. Growing older doesn't mean growing apart. Sometimes, life changes and health challenges can quietly build walls around us. Sometimes, old habits or worries convince us to step back, to say less, or to stop reaching out. But you still have so much love, wisdom, and joy to offer to your family, your friends, and your entire community. Whether it's making the effort to communicate more, opening your mind to new ideas, or finding the courage to take small steps toward better health, You hold the power to create the connections you long for. It's never too late to learn, to listen, to laugh, or to ask for what you need. The smallest action, a phone call, a heartfelt compliment, a walk in the sunshine, can spark a chain of warmth that brightens the lives of everyone around you. If you've ever felt isolated, judged, or left behind, know that you are not alone. So many people face these same struggles, and the path forward starts with just one small choice to reach out or care for yourself. Your presence still matters, more than you may realize. Every story you share, every kindness you show, helps bring loved ones closer. What about you? Have you experienced any of these challenges? What has helped you reconnect with others? Please share your story in the comments below. Your wisdom might inspire someone else. If you found this video meaningful, please like, share, and subscribe. Together, let's remind each other that life after 60 can be rich in love, laughter, and lasting connections. You deserve it, today and always.